Hello everyone, welcome to the Tech and Auto Show. I'm your host Manav Sinha and it is so good to see all of you lovely people once again. In case you're new here, well, you've just tuned into that one show which satisfies your hunger for both technology as well as automobiles at one place, which basically means why should you be watching two shows when you can watch one? This one. Now just like every time, there's a lot of action that we have to cover, so I'm going to get straight to it by first showing you a glimpse of what you can expect over the course of the next half an hour. Take a look. This week, we'll be taking a look at the all-new Apple iPad Pro and telling you all about it. Then, we'll talk about some electric vehicles as we get into a conversation with Ather Energy. And we'll also dive a little bit deeper into the world of cryptocurrencies as we find out more about Litecoin. So there you have it, all of that action will be coming your way, but we're going to start off with the Apple iPad Pro. Now, the Apple iPad is pretty much the default tablet that you should buy out there if you're looking for a new tablet. Because the Apple iPad is just so good, it's the benchmark. But how far can you push that benchmark? Well, that is where the Apple iPad Pro comes in, where this is meant to be for the pros or for the professionals out there, where it gives you a lot of firepower, top of the line equipment, and now it has been updated as well. So what's new on offer and how good has it become now? Well, Vishal is telling us more about it up next.
How much can an Apple iPad Pro really change in a period of 12 months? The answer is a lot. The thing is, the Apple iPad Pro, the iPad Pro 11 and the iPad Pro 12.9 are very important elements for Apple's entire ecosystem of computing devices, which also includes the Macs, the MacBooks and the iMacs. With the new update to the Apple iPad Pro 11, the 2021 edition, what Apple has done is it's got the iPad Pros at par with the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro 13, at least in its current avatar. The critical element here is the Apple M1 chip. To be very fair, the Apple M1 chip in an iPad Pro 11 and an iPad Pro 12.9 really puts it at par with something that you would else be considering, the MacBook Air or the MacBook Pro 13. But does it really mean that the Apple iPad Pro 11 in particular now becomes a very viable computing device for you as a laptop replacement? When Apple announced the big transition from the Intel chips to the Apple M1 chip last year, I honestly did not expect the iPad Pros to make the switch over so quickly. Yet here we are. It is the same 8-core CPU and the 8-core GPU, so nothing's been sliced off. That means the new iPad Pro 11 is 50% faster in terms of CPU performance and more than 40% powerful in terms of graphics than before. This time around you get 3 storage specs with 8GB of RAM, that's 128GB, 256GB and 512GB, and you get 2 specifications for storage with 16GB of RAM, that's 1TB storage and 2TB storage. This definitely is a new approach from Apple since they're actively talking about RAM for the first time in the iPad's evolution cycle. The M1 is succeeding a supremely powerful A12Z Bionic chip, which didn't really have a match in the world of smartphone and tablet chips that are made by the likes of Qualcomm and MediaTek for the longest time. You'll probably not realize any real-world speed difference therefore, for the most part with most usage scenarios. There was a lot more power before, and there's even more now, something you'll realize in extreme cases. In terms of the design, it remains largely the same as before. The minimal bezels, the flat sides, and the effortless, sophisticated personality. Are you comfortable with an 11-inch display? This is a question you will seriously need to ask yourself over and over again before you make the purchase, particularly if this is going to be a primary computing device. The fine balance between size and portability is quite subjective, and I cannot really prescribe a one-size-fits-all solution. What the iPad Pro 11 gets is a liquid retina display. This has ProMotion, which does the adaptive 120Hz refresh rate. It has support for True Tone. It's rated at 600 nits of peak brightness, and all said and done, it is really good to look at. Maybe you can say that the blacks could have been a little darker than some visuals, but for most of us, we really won't bother even an iota in the day-to-day scheme of things. So what's it going to be? An Apple iPad Pro 11 or the new MacBook Air? The answer to this will actually lie in the answer to two questions that you really need to think about. First, are you comfortable with an 11-inch display as your primary computing device? If you are, then you've pretty much hit the jackpot at least 50%. The other question you need to look at and answer is, do your workflow apps, the most popular apps that you use on a daily basis, do they fit well in the iPadOS ecosystem? Do they respond the same way? Do they have the same sort of functionality? And are you able to get your tasks done without any hindrances? If the answer to that is also yes, then you've pretty much got the answer to the larger question. The iPad Pro 11 as a replacement for the MacBook Air gives you something that's extremely portable as a computing device and one that can become a tablet when you want it to. The benchmark tablet, so if I may say. The thing is, the iPad Pro 11 with the Magic Keyboard actually may cost you a little lesser than the MacBook Air. That's something for you to think about, isn't it?
Now let's move on to the world of automobiles and let's talk about electric vehicles. Now, if you talk about electric vehicles, the most popular ones or perhaps the most sold ones in the Indian market right now are two-wheelers, and in that segment, Ather Energy has really created a unique place for itself. How? Well, we found out a little bit more about it by getting into a conversation with CEO and co-founder of Ather Energy, Tarun Mehta, and here's how that conversation went.
Hi, so I'm Tarun. I'm co-founder and CEO for Ather Energy. Super excited to be here at the launch of our Delhi Experience Center. I think it's been a long journey, and I think one thing that's helped us is we've been able to stay focused on the product and the experience we want to deliver. This is what we had in mind when we began 7 years back, and I think we've been lucky that we've been able to stick to it. So consistency of product and brand vision has helped us quite a lot in the last 7 years. It's been a simple strategy. We just want to build a great product experience. We believe that consumers will pay for a better experience. I think most of the scooter market has been focused too much on value engineering and the lowest cost, but there's an opportunity to build more features, more value. Which is why we didn't start by trying to build a low-end scooter. We wanted to build like a great experience, great acceleration, great connectivity, great everything. That's a simple strategy. And whether we are in the 150cc equivalent category, 125cc category, or any other segment tomorrow, that's been going to be our approach. Build a tightly integrated, great ownership experience, right? So the advantage primarily is you get a better control on your supply chain. You can be more responsive. You can respond faster. And eventually your cost structures are better. If you have an import reliance, your initial cost structure is better, but then it does not improve much after that. If all your suppliers are here locally, they can work with you and they can help lower the cost structure to very, very efficient points in a long term. So you can respond faster to product market changes. You can have a better cost structure. You can have a better ability to respond to policy and everything. So I think long term it just works out better. It's not just it looks beautiful, it writes beautifully, but everything about the dashboard and the software side, it screams futuristic, right? It seems upgrade, right? Whether it's the Google Maps integration on the vehicle or the 4G SIM card and the software delivered upgrades, you kind of get a sense that the product is improving because every few months we push out a new feature on the vehicle. It's a very important part of our community, our conversations with customers, and what the experience of Ather. So 100% an important USP for us. See, for our customers, we believe that we already have enough range in the product for them to not need swapping as a solution. Swapping introduces additional cost because you've got to have more batteries. The cost of infrastructure is substantial. There is also a support required by the customer from a actual swapping operation, right? Somebody has got to pull out your battery, so you need assistance, then you need security. So all that introduces additional cost for a limited upside. So we have not seen economically the model work out for our consumers, which is why we are offering fast charging and not swapping.
Now let's move on to something that's relatively new in the world of technology, but it's caught the attention of everyone all across the world. Cryptocurrencies. Now, over the past few episodes, we've been diving a little bit more deeper into the world of cryptocurrencies every time and again. We've told you what Bitcoin is, what Ethereum is, what Dogecoin is, and today we're going to talk about something that's perhaps not talked about that much. It's called Litecoin. What is it? Well, I'm going to hand it over to Darab, who will tell you all about it up next.
Now we have all heard of light version of things like apps and games. For example, Facebook Lite, Twitter Lite, PUBG Lite, Instagram Lite and the likes. Now these are smaller, more efficient versions of the original apps or games meant for weaker machines like budget smartphones or Chromebook laptops. Similarly, in cryptocurrencies, there is Litecoin, which is said to be the lighter version of Bitcoin. Now what is Litecoin and how is it different from the biggest cryptocurrency, Bitcoin? Let's find out. Now, Litecoin was created in 2011 by a former Google employee named Charlie Lee. It was created to be the lighter version of Bitcoin and was designed to carry out everyday transactions. Litecoin's own creators have said that Litecoin is the silver to Bitcoin's gold. Now, Litecoin works like any other cryptocurrency around the globe. Users can send each other Litecoins without having to worry about a central authority to validate those transactions. Now, Litecoin adopts a lot of features from Bitcoin that the makers felt were working well for the earlier cryptocurrency, and changes some other aspects that Lee and his team thought could be improved. One similarity is that both of them are proof of work ecosystem. This means that the process by which the cryptocurrencies are mined is fundamentally similar. However, there are differences. First and the foremost, market cap. While Bitcoin has a market cap of close to $650 billion at the time of making this video, Litecoin has a market cap of less than $10 billion. Second is the number of cryptocurrencies that can be produced. While Bitcoin is limited to a quantity of 21 million coins, Litecoin's ecosystem can accommodate up to 84 million coins. Now, Litecoin was made with an aim to improve transaction speeds. And according to data from blockchain.com, the average time taken by Bitcoin's network to confirm a transaction is just under 10 minutes. Litecoin, on the other hand, confirms transactions in 2.5 minutes. The most technical difference between Litecoin and Bitcoin is that they use fundamentally different cryptographic algorithms. Now, while Bitcoin uses the SHA-256 algorithm, Litecoin uses an algorithm named Script. The SHA-256 algorithm is considered much more complex than the newer Script. Bitcoin miners use sophisticated methods in order to mine Bitcoins, with the most common one being the use of application-specific integrated circuits or ASICs. These are hardware systems that, unlike the traditional CPUs and GPUs, can be tailored towards the purpose of just mining cryptocurrencies. This makes Bitcoin mining out of reach for the everyday user. Litecoin, on the other hand, is more accessible in terms of mining. Now, while there are companies that make script-based ASICs as well, the majority of Litecoin mining is done on consumer-grade GPUs and CPUs. This is why script-based cryptocurrencies like Litecoin are considered more accessible for the everyday users in terms of mining those cryptocurrencies. So this was Litecoin, the silver to Bitcoin's gold. Now, while Bitcoin and Litecoin might be the gold and silver of the cryptocurrency space, history has shown us that the prices of both of them are subject to dramatic volatility. It still remains to be seen if the cryptocurrencies will retain the stature that they hold today in the next few years.
Welcome back. You're watching the Tech and Auto Show and I'm your host Manav Sinha. Now, the airlines industry hasn't been doing really well thanks to the coronavirus pandemic because, well, things have been just all over the place. The pandemic hit, there were new regulations that have to be formed, and then everything closed down, then it opened again, then it closed down again, and now it's opening once again. So things have been really dynamic on that front, but Vistara has been holding its fort, as we found out in a special conversation with Vistara with Arjit Garg, who will tell you about it up next. Take a look.
Hello everyone. While India is slowly making its place among the biggest aviation markets globally, there's one company in India that has created a niche for itself as a premium airliner, and it is Vistara. Today I have with me Mr. Vinod Kanan, who is the Chief Commercial Officer at Vistara. Mr. Kanan, welcome to News 18.
Thank you so much, Arjit, for having me.
Now I'll start by asking you how hard has been COVID-19 for the aviation industry and more specifically from Vistara's point of view.
Well, it's been a tough time for most of hospitality and service industry, as I'm sure you're aware.
Right.
Aviation, unfortunately, was one of those which was hit the hardest, I would say. I think given the situation we were in starting from, say, April or May last year, there was, of course, a gradual recovery. Demand started coming back. And I think as the numbers were reducing, we started to see some glimmer of hope. And we expected that this summer would be, even if not back to normal, but at least much better than what we've been experiencing over the last 12 months or so. Unfortunately, that was not to be with the second wave, as we're all aware. So it has it has been quite a tough situation for all airlines, including Vistara. So probably that also provides some confidence. And we hope that we are in a position where in the next few months, we are back to the levels we were pre-COVID.
How is Vistara changing the aviation experience in India in terms of Wi-Fi, retro livery, food quality, and other aspects?
I think even prior to COVID, there were a lot of measures that we had put in place and focused a lot on customer experience on the ground and on board. So we had a number of measures. We had great food, which was well regarded by various customers. We had also made sure that, like you said, we had a full gamut of services on our new aircraft that's coming in. So we have the Wi-Fi, we have the streaming service, we have the seatback devices that are also available on the 787s and 321s. And at the same time, we've also kept customers' comfort in mind. So on the newer aircraft, in fact, now we have almost 10 to 12 of them. You would see that there are important but very critical, features such as a USB charging on every seat, because these days, without a phone or a mobile device, you don't step out of the house, or less so on an aircraft. We also have a holder for people to be able to put their devices to watch their OTT content. So these are all things that we had kept in mind even prior when we were coming up with the new aircraft deliveries.
And talking about the newer aircraft which you just mentioned, can you tell us about the fleet of Vistara, mainly the 787-9 and the A321neos that you have recently added in the fleet?
So at this point in time, our fleet consists of 47 aircraft as we speak today. And out of the 47, we have two 787s. The 787-9s are Dreamliners. These are the aircraft that can fly longer distance. Therefore, we are using it to operate from Delhi to London, Frankfurt, and soon in a couple of weeks, we will launch Tokyo as well. The other aircraft that you spoke about is the 321, which is a narrow body aircraft, meaning as we call it, a single aisle aircraft, but still has a longer, more space as well as a longer mission length. So therefore, we've been using that on a few charters to Hong Kong, for example. We've been also been operating, and we hope to operate it to places like Singapore or to Dubai and such regional destinations within, say, 3 to 7 hours, and in that range.
In lockdown, you started various international flights. Earlier, it used to be only domestic operations. What's your future plans for international routes, and do they limit to the air bubble agreements only, or are you planning to launch scheduled commercial routes as well?
Actually, Arjit, we do plan to have scheduled international operations to most of the places we are already flying with the bubble. If you look at it, I think in the future, although we hopefully come out of this pandemic soon, there will still be a mindset for people, I suppose, to travel direct. rather than stopping through intermediate points or taking multiple flights, because ultimately the exposure as well as the potential chances of getting stuck in a third country is definitely not something that is not gone away from people's mind. So therefore, in that regard, I believe that we have a lot of opportunity. I believe we have a lot of a market that we will be able to capture. So therefore, our intention is to continue operations on most of the international flights that we are currently operating. Definitely on the long haul, I think London, Frankfurt, as well as Tokyo, as I mentioned, we do look at it from a medium to long-term perspective. It's not just with the bubble agreement. But we hope that that will continue, and we will be able to increase services as well, because right now we are just operating a few times a week. Hopefully we can do daily and more operations.
Thank you for talking to News 18, Mr. Khan.
Thank you, Arjit. Thanks a lot.
And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of the Tech and Auto Show. How did you find the show? Is there anything you have to say, anything you want us to cover, or simply want to